Welcome everyone to the fourth in our series featuring young women leaders in the MENA region, which includes the Middle East and North Africa. I'm Sandy Pappas. I'm a state senator in the state of Minnesota in the USA and executive director and co-founder of Forward Global Women. At Forward Global Women, we bring together women leaders in the MENA region who are strong advocates for both women's empowerment and peace building. We share knowledge and grow leadership skills that help advance and facilitate sustainable peace and security. In today's webinar, I will interview our guests and then take questions in the Q&A function from you, our viewers. Today, we're featuring two women from Morocco. I'm very pleased to introduce Nezha Sadiq, who is a researcher and journalist and co-founder of the NGO Women for Peace and Diversity, and also Dounia Benslimane, who co-founded Racines, an organization that promoted democracy, culture, and human rights in Morocco. Welcome to both of you. It's great to have you with us, and you can feel free to unmute yourselves as we have our conversation. Let's start with Nezha. Nezha, tell us who or what inspired you to become a leader, or on whose shoulders are you standing?
First of all, thank you, Sandy, for the invitation. It's a great pleasure to meet again virtually. Our first meeting was in Marrakesh 2019. I thank Forward Global Women for really the great job that you do. Who inspired me was my father. He was my hero. My father was the first man that took girls in his little village to school in 1970, a little village called Tazarine, not far from Ouarzazate. For who doesn't know, Ouarzazate is very famous for filmmaking, but just next Ouarzazate 130, there have been a lot of girls and women suffering because they don't get the education that they deserve. They don't get even the right. So my father was inspiring me because he struggled to convince the community and to girls. And today, if a lot of girls are studying in Tazarine, it's thanks to him. So he gave me that, he's my hero. And the other question is that whose shoulders or who's standing with me is, supporting me is my mother also as a female model in my life. And my mother, she taught me how to think critically and raise questions since I was a child, because whenever I come back from school, she has never asked me which good questions did you answer or which good answers did you, give to your teacher. She asked what was the right question did you ask or did you have the chance to ask. So she's an illiterate woman. She has never been in school and she has always dreamed to go to school and raise questions. But implicitly, she taught me the philosophy of thinking critically and take a risk, which was a journey for really long years and days of asking questions and empowering women.
That's amazing. We see how important that our families are to us and in our growth as women leaders. Dounia, also, what inspired you to become a leader and on whose shoulders do you stand?
Yeah, thank you very much, Sandy, and to Forward Global Women for inviting me today. Yeah, I agree that families are very important and play a very important role in the way that we develop our careers and focus not only the biological families, but for instance, in my case, indeed, I grew up in a family where I was very soon in contact of politics, and my father was involved in politics since I was very young. But also, when you grow up and you start meeting people and getting in touch with some particular communities, like in my case, the artists and human rights activists and cultural activists in Casablanca were very inspiring for me. So this contact and this, I jumped deeply in this sector in Casablanca, the art and culture sector. So I started to, see that there is a need for an involvement of everyone in the community. And that was very inspiring for me. And I consider that this is like an extended family. And sometimes it's also very, very important. And indeed, I'm not alone in what I do. So I'm really counting on my colleagues and my staff in my organization, and they do a very great job. Together we can like have a lot of challenges to, you know. Yeah, so I think the environment, friend, and the community and the activist inspired me a lot in
So
Morocco.
you're also a medical doctor, right? How did you make that transition into culture and activism and human rights?
Yeah, true. I am trained as a medical doctor. I studied in the University of Casablanca, the Faculty of Medicine, and I graduated in 2004, 3, 4. I didn't practice for a long time, and then this sorry this encounter and this meeting with these people who were really dedicating themselves to culture as a tool of human rights promotion and advocacy really inspired me, and it inspired me to the extent that I decided that I want to work in this sector. So after some years of volunteering, I think 4 or 5 years in some cultural organizations in Casablanca, and after having led a lot of projects on a volunteer basis, I decided that maybe I should dedicate my whole time to working as an NGO leader, and I created Racine with other friends. And this is when my career and profession just changed some years ago.
So we're talking really about our route to becoming leaders. So Nezha, let's turn to you. Dounia talked about that a little bit with what she just said in her involvement with the creation of Racines. Tell us a little bit about your path on how you became a leader.
First of all, it's almost the same like Dunya, because I was studying biology first of all, and then when I get my 2 years at university, I decided totally to change my career into communication, because since I was a child, I really loved communication. And my grandmother, she was gathering women and for some sessions in which they talk about the practice, because she was madly in love with the land. So she taught me how to love land, animals, and humans. And why I'm talking about the story, because it was the beginning of a long journey of studying communication, because I believe that with communication we can really conduct a change. And later on I studied communication, and recently, and I got in 2011 a master's degree in management of communication of organizations. But before, I worked as a volunteer with many organizations, and I conduct projects also on gender, because on 2009 I have made this research about the new family code, the feminist work of feminist association in Morocco, and the new family code. So it's a mixture between what I have, since I live or I grew up in a context of altruism. That was a vital, integral part of my living and doing. So it's a mixture between a journey of research and studying communication, media, and journalism, and my values as a Berber woman, or all things that I have learned in my family.
So you both make it sound like you had this easy path, but I'm sure that there were challenges and obstacles that you faced. Dounia, can you share some of those with us? Like, especially as women and as women who are empowered and are trying to make a difference, what has been some of your major challenges?
I think that in my case, I mean, working in the NGO world in Morocco is a challenge per se, like because it's a kind of a precarious sector. I mean, a lot of NGOs in the country are struggling to fund themselves and have a staff and permanently, you know, pay salaries and have a sustainable budget to keep doing project and keep their team together. So this was a challenge. And of course, as you said, I'm a doctor. So in my society, it's a bit weird for people to, when they know that, oh, how could you change from this very noble profession and lucrative profession to to having an NGO and working in art and culture, which is even worse than anything. So this was like, let's say it's a financial and social challenge vis-a-vis my background and how I decided to switch, but also because the work that we do with Racine and that we've been doing is related with changing the society and improving like the situation of human rights and democracy in the country. So politically, it's a kind of a challenge because it's not always welcomed the way we work and how we try to empower communities and especially youngsters and small grassroots association to political accountability and to monitoring the public policies in their local communities. So the political obstacle is also a huge one. And of course, as a woman, you know, you always have to prove that you are, not prove, but you have to work harder than a man to find your place and to be considered as the leader of our organization. So many times I was, I mean, discriminated or not discriminated, but considered as just a secondary import, like a manager.
Can you go get the coffee, Dounia?
Not that much,
bad.
not that bad, but sometimes, you know, when people speak with you and your male counterpart, they just keep speaking with him and just ignoring you, you know, you are the executant or something like this. But I think that in the art and culture sector is less obvious, this kind of difference between men and women in terms of governance and leadership. I think it's an open sector which is very related with human rights and women's rights. So I think that we are luckier than many other sectors in the country where women are still struggling to find a very important place and to impose themselves as important actors.
We've run into situations in other countries, like in recently in Tunisia and earlier in Egypt, where the government actually had made it very difficult for nonprofits, for NGOs to work internationally, to receive international grants, to just, you know, put up a lot of barriers that have made it difficult. Have you run into that in Morocco as well?
In Morocco, the law is kind of different. There is no direct control on the fund that NGOs can receive from foreign donors, like is the case in Egypt. But still, you have to declare any money that you receive from any international organization, either public or private funds. Of course, your funds are monitored and I mean, there is special public administration who follow the money in the NGOs. Sometimes it can be a way to, you know, control some troublemakers because they are how to say, like those who are, most of the NGOs in Morocco who are really working well or can sustain funds are funded by international money. And this is sometimes used by the authorities to decredibilize them and say, these guys, they receive money from abroad, so they work for a foreign agenda, they are manipulated, blah, 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 blah. So depending on the area of focus of your organization and how much noise you make in the country, this can be used against you. We always said at Racine with my colleagues that we would be happy to be funded 90% by public money if we could, and if we could also keep criticizing and accompanying the development of the public policy. It's not incompatible. At the contrary, it's very healthy to receive public money to advocate to the government to make changes in the policy. But this is not yet the case in Morocco. So as much foreign money you receive, as much suspicious you are, and they try to use this against you when they want to. Yeah.
So we've talked about personal obstacles, but there are also political obstacles to being able to fulfill kind of your role as a leader. Nezha, what kind of experiences have you had?
I joined Dounia in many, let's say, she has explained a lot about civil society, but as far as my experience is concerned, I will talk about the obstacles that I have had is being a woman in patriarchal system. The symbolic representations that we have about women and women that were against me. We have to underline this because it's not only about the political, social culture. It's that many values that many women are indoctrinated because the patriarchal system it doesn't have to do only with men. It has to do with many women. I give you an example. At the age of 14, I started a discussion group in our little village, a recreation center in Ulmes with my brother. And in order to deliver a message about the importance of educating girls, I was obliged first to find like a subject. And the first subject was about practical and good agriculture. I'm not specializing in agriculture, but it was since my brother's friends are studying agriculture. So all men, they were so interested. But women were against me because they didn't want girls to go to the recreation centers. And they were calling me like little boy girls or whatever. They gave me names at the village. But these allowed me also, or teach me to create new tools that I have been equipped naturally to contextualize the whole event and try to convince as much as I can these women that nothing is against you or against men or against value family, that when you educate girls, everybody will be okay, even these men. If your girl can be a future agriculture engineer or something, that it will help you. So there are symbolic representations that are hidden, because even if we will give thousands of situations, I think that all women have had the same, because it's a matter of perception. It's a matter how we perceive women, as I said, and several women were against me.
Right, there's always challenges, and just dealing on the personal level. Right. So when we talk about leaders, I mean, there's lots of leaders in the world, but not all of them are authentic. I can think of several in the US I'd call pretty inauthentic leaders. What does it take to be an authentic leader, and how do you continue to be one? Let's start this time with Nezha. How do you maintain yourself, your authenticity?
It's not really easy, but first of all, you have to have a high self-awareness. Is that try to be yourself true as much as you can. You have always to. I have created, for example, with leadership and peace, I have created what I call 2P: practical and positive. For example, because I reinforce peace through my organization, Women for Diversity and Peace, I have created a notion that peace should be positive and practical, and women should be the key the key elements for reinforcing the peace via reinforcing the culture of diversity. The authenticity is really very important, because also it has to do also with your behavior, if it is natural or not. Because I give you an example. In school, when I was a little child, my teacher chose me or look at me as a leader naturally in my neighbor. And this is also being responsible, because and having a high level, the authenticity it has to do with creativity. Also, how can be creative to resolve problems, and also the level of otherness and the level especially of altruism. If you have a high level of altruism, and I think all women they have, since they give a lot to their family, community, and it can make you really an authentic, and it can help you really to continue to be really a leader, and others can believe you, and also base your authenticity on actions, because actions speak more louder than words.
Thank you. That's great. Dounia, your comments on being an authentic leader.
It's very complicated for me to speak about to comment on myself being a leader, because I never think about this like this. So I just do what I have to do. But actually what I strongly believe in is the power of the collective. So I think that nothing can happen if we are not together to make it happen. So this is what I strongly believe in. So the collective is always what has been pushing me forward and pushing the projects that we have been implementing forward. And I think that the role that women can play is crucial, because they are actually in need of a lot in our societies. They have been discriminated for a long time, and still now they have to struggle for many rights. I mean, besides the global rights like freedom of expression, freedom of opinion, conscience, all these rights that are for everybody. Beside this, women has other rights that they are still struggling to get in Morocco. And if we are not together in advocating for them, I think that a leader alone, as authentic as she or he can be, cannot achieve. So I really believe that the more important we are in number, the most we can get. And this is actually what is, like, say, scaring the authorities in some particular regimes, when they say that people are getting together to call and claim for one same things. They get scared and they start, repressing, oppressing people and banning their expression. Yeah, so for me, the leadership is really collective, because everyone brings their brick to the wall and we can build something very strong together.
And I think that's very typical of women's leadership style, is to look at the group, at the community, and how we can develop others around, help others to be leaders. So that kind of leads me to my next question. What's important and necessary for you and other leaders to inspire and motivate young women? Nezha.
It's connect for change. And as Dounia also said, and as I said earlier, that women, they work for community, and what is important for women or as a leader is we say, let's go. It's not you go or you have to do, let's go together. But today, frankly speaking, for whatever we call it, authentic leadership, because I want just to open a bracket, please, just to say something before talking about really what we need for each other. That I have noticed Dounia is a great leader. She has done a lot of job, but look how the way that she talks about herself. So humble. But women, we need to talk high about ourselves also. We need to do that, because we are in a society that you meet guys and he's an examiner, so did you, I am awesome. All women are awesome. So it depends also the way that we deliver the message about ourselves and others. And this collectiveness, really we need it for the notion of leadership, because let's go, not you go. So I think that connecting for change is really very important. Storytelling today, if I talk about media, as an expert in media, storytelling is to share experience of inspiring women, for girls in different area. And I think, for example, if what we have done with the Women for Diversity and Peace, that we went to fragile areas in the recreation centers and high schools, and we tried to really bring some women that they are inspiring for these girls to learn about gender justice and about leadership and skills. And we used soft skills. This is the main or among the elements or tools that are really very, very important. Using media, develop collective of research and action based on expertise, organize trainings of awareness about using the various artistic, because I am happy when Dounia, she talked about artists. I know a lot of artists in Morocco, and they are free in their minds. It's totally different when you go to high school, when you go to a little village, and you want to talk about women's rights, about women and leadership, and you want to talk about empowering, then it can tell you, stop it. So you have to find ways, soft skills like art, and involve men also, involve men in women's rights, because the positive masculinity that we talk about it today is really, really important. And a man who was inspiring me in patriarchal system and gave me this space to love my body, to wear whatever I want, to say how I think, even if I have suffered a lot because of that. So involving men also is really very important. And today the positive masculinity is really important if we want really to inspire or talk about leader, and take part also of the institutionalization of the academic programs about women's and leadership.
Yeah, that's quite an agenda. And
yeah.
Dounia, what do you think is necessary to inspire and motivate young women?
I think Nezha said a lot about this. In my level of work and in my area of work, I think that maybe learning by doing can be inspiring. I mean, like, just give the example and have as much women as possible around, you know, or young women or girls working with me in the organization. I think this is already the case, because I have currently a team with almost only girls and young women. I think that they unfortunately they are issued, they come from an education system where this is not really highlighted. I mean, it's still very like a kind of archaic system, and with all the taboos and all the obstacles. So sometimes it's really hard to push them. I've been through this, so I know that it's not easy to be on the spotlight as a woman, because you always think that you should let the man speak. This is how most of the women are raised. But yeah, giving the example, being empathic, and also understand the fact that not everyone has the same pace. You know, some women need more time and need to understand and to get more and more confident, and giving them the responsibility and including them like completely 100% as part of a team or a project, give more strength and power. So I think that inclusivity, empathy, understanding, and giving the example by doing simply can be very inspiring for youngest women. Of course, at a larger scale would be a fair education system and equal access to education and rights, all this. But in my small scale, I think that this is what can be done.
I think having good role models, so girls see themselves, they see someone like them that has is in a leadership role. But you're right, just kind of respecting their voices. I know I taught a college course in high school once, and every time I asked a question, all the boys would frantically wave their hands, and the girls wouldn't do that. And so I just put into practice where I would just go around the room, you know, and call on everyone. And if they didn't have a comment, they could just pass. But at least I gave them an opportunity, and I didn't let the boys dominate the room. Right?
Yeah, that's great.
We're ready to take some questions from our attendees, and so feel free to put your questions in the Q&A, and then our assistant Lily will feed them to me in the chat. And while we're waiting for some questions to gather, I just would like to get a little update on maybe what you've just been doing and what you're planning to do next. I know I had the pleasure of meeting Dounia in Minnesota recently, where she was a fellow at the University of Minnesota. And now she's traveling across the US and then going back to Casablanca. So what were you doing here, Dounia, and what do you plan to do when you return to Casablanca?
Yeah, I spent 6 months in Minneapolis, Minnesota, at the University of Minnesota, at the Humphrey School for Public Affairs, where I was a fellow within the Humphrey Fellowship Program. It's part of a Fulbright program for professional in mid-careers, and I was focusing on human rights and public policies. And basically, this is a program that is accessible to mid-career people, and they can just apply in their Fulbright Commission in their countries. And basically, it's a mix of academic classes, practical seminars, professional development activities, and maybe not this year very much, but usually a deep contact with the American counterparts and American culture, volunteering, conference debates, workshops, and other stuff. It's a very interesting and like high-level program funded by the U.S. Department of State.
And now that you're returning to Casablanca, what's your next step?
I will be back to to business as usual. So I'm very happy because I will join again my team in Morocco and keep working on the projects that are already ongoing.
This is a cultural project.
Yeah, culture and human rights project. And speaking about leadership and women leadership, I'm really happy to see that things were just going perfectly well thanks to the work of the team back in Morocco. So I'm really happy to rejoin the practice and of course see my family again. And as I said, when we were preparing, so my sister is having a little baby, and yeah,
that's nice.
So
yeah,
I'm looking forward to it.
So Nezha, you also are not in Morocco right now, and what's your current activity?
Actually, we are establishing a magazine dedicated to civil society, and the main team is located in Germany, but I am a curator among a very, really inspiring team and equal also parity. We have 4 men and 4 women. We insist from the beginning that it should be like this. And of course, we will launch it in a few months. I'm so excited about this project. It's really, it's gonna be a very, very good one, because it's rare when we find a magazine that is dedicated mainly to civil society and civil actors on one hand. On the other hand, with the Women for Diversity and Peace, we're gonna also launch a little branch in cooperation or in partnership with a Canadian African organization, Hommage aux Femmes, in Burkina Faso, and I will go in December, and I will attend the events and meet new African inspiring women as an African woman and proud of being. So we're gonna have that event, and we continue working on new projects with our organizations. That is the digital gap, and we are preparing some workshops just to help girls to get into that and raise awareness about the importance of girls in the digital world.
Great. So we have a question, and it's an interesting question because when I was in grad school, I also had to write a paper, and that is about a mistake that you made. What did you, can you share a mistake that you made as a leader, and what did you learn from it?
Dounia, the floor is yours.
Big or little?
Can you share mistake time? Oh dear. I mean, this is a question that needs some a reflection. I think that sometimes I don't have a concrete example, but I think that sometimes we we want to give the chance to everybody to contribute to our work. And for some reason, we just miss something, and this is not the right person, and it can ruin everything in our project. And that happened not very often, thankfully, but it can happen that we are mistaken about how people are sincere and, as you said, Sandy, authentic and really involved. So yeah, I did this kind of mistakes twice or 3 times in not evaluating people's ability to be part of the work we do, and it was not a great success. Yeah. So are we able to, to learn from it? I think it teaches you that you dedicate more time, like to understand the profiles of people and how they can be reliable. Sometimes we are in a context where you really need to trust people because it's about sensitive things. My organization 2 years ago was dissolved by the Moroccan government, and we've been through a judicial process, and we needed to be able to count on trustworthy people, and this is very important in work we do, to trust people. So sometimes you learn, but it's too late. Anyways, it just teaches you to be more cautious in choosing your colleagues and your collaborators.
Right. And it can be difficult to judge that, really.
Yeah, sure.
Nezha, have you had time to think about something?
Yes, because
the floor is yours now.
Thank you. No, because I was the last one that talked, so I said, okay, I'm not going to talk, then I will give you the floor also. Democracy.
No, thank you. No problem.
You're welcome. So the mistake that I have made, and I think that most of people do in the world of gender justice and working in patriarchal system, is that sometimes because you are really engaged and you have a lot of passion, you have a lot of emotions, you forgot to be rational in certain situations. And rational means you have to use the right tools, the right moment with the right persons. And contextualizing is the most important thing that I have learned. That's why we use a lot of soft skills in our organization today, because the cultural resistance will shock you and you will be rejected, whether in cultural resistance, whether you are dealing with trusted people or not, or whether we are dealing with the system or individuals. You have to take into consideration. And I remember, since with my passion, I just say, okay, this is the right tool, but it was shocking. And then I have had a lot of rejection. So, and the main objective for anybody that believes in gender justice and wants to conduct a change is to get results. And by getting results is that you have to rethink your tools. So today I think twice before I do any project. And it was a big, because from the age of 14, I have faced that because it was too much feelings, too much passion. Then I'm more rational and calm.
Good to have a balance.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah, it's like, don't send that email until the next morning if you're really upset about something.
It's not only that, it's bigger than that, because it's implicit. You come and you have front of you people, and what you want is just to tell them an idea about gender justice is important, and then they reject you because it depends the way how you communicate it. What did you use, the language, and then through I mean, by a time you learn more. It's not only about the passion.
This is a long question, but so how do you see the best way to encourage young women to get involved, to join organizations that focus on security and peace, or feminism and gender equality? It's really a kind of a follow-up of the earlier question about inspiring young women. And I think Nezha did talk quite a bit about, both of you did talk quite a bit about what we need to do to involve young women. Did you have anything else that, especially in the area of security and peace and feminism, and there's one thing to inspire young women to just, pursue their own interests and careers, but how do we push them in that direction of kind of feminism and gender equality?
I think that through the project that we always try to encourage like women participation and girls participation to our activities through our partners, because it's still, when you don't have like dedicated feminine projects, you need to have mixed group. It's very complicated to have mixed group, especially in some regions and areas in Morocco because of different factors. But still, the organization that we work with are very strongly encouraged to bring women and girls participants to the activities, at least half of the participants. So it's sometimes very hard because either the women are not very confident or their families are not willing them to be at the same activity as men or boys. But still, we try to push and to encourage, let's guys bring half of the participants as women. Another way would be to dedicate activities to women, but this is not our favorite. We are more in favor of mixed groups, but as much as we can, if it's not really possible, like safe places for women alone can be also a solution. And still, learning by doing and being a role model for me is maybe the most inspiring way to do, because they see you when you present the project, when you explain what you do, they are inspired. They see that it's possible to do so. And storytelling, Nezha was speaking about storytelling, we also do this, and we try to have workshop with women and try to get their stories from using theater techniques, and it is very, very successful because women find out about how inspiring they are already just by telling their story. And sometimes it's very emotional to see that, wow, how am I doing all this?
Yeah.
And it's really moments of emotions. I think storytelling and let women themselves find out about how amazing they are, and the work they do is amazing. Yeah.
Thank you. Here's a question like, what's a mistake you made? So what is something that you're really proud of? Nezha.
Okay, now your turn, Nezha.
Nezha, now your turn, right.
I'm proud of the organization, the Women for Diversity and Peace, because I was waiting for a long time really to found an organization. I organized it, I found it, in 2018. And it was a long process after many years of volunteer and working with civil society and research within gender, as I said early in my research paper.
Nezha, is that organization just in Morocco, or is it a collaboration with other countries in North Africa?
No, we will start to collaborate with other countries, as I have already said. Next December, I will be in Burkina Faso with other inspiring African women, and we will see how we can collaborate together. But first of all, when I found it, I wanted to start with Morocco and work, because after many years of experience, and I wanted to, let's say, participate, because I cannot say that I will resolve all the problems. They don't have even the tools, but I will participate, be as an agent. And I thought of the context that I understand more after many years of experience. And then why not to spread the idea, because I believe that through our context in Morocco, Morocco is a country really that reinforced coexistence and reinforced really diversity for 1,000 of years. With the Berber culture, with the pluralism that we have. So I believe that women can be also, Moroccan women can be ambassadors for peace and diversity. And why not to spread that? But first of all, there is no peace without gender justice. Why not work on that? So I am proud of Women for Diversity and Peace, and I'm also thinking to step by step to make it really global. Why not like forward global women?
Maybe we could work together.
Yes.
Best way.
Dounia, something that you're proud of.
I think indeed, like Nezha said, proud about my organization and the work we've been doing so far. But also, I think that as humble as I could seem, I'm pretty proud of my own achievement, like at the personal level, because I really come from a different background, like trained as a doctor, and now I am working in the human rights sector and through arts and culture, which are really completely different from my basic training. So yeah, I'm pretty proud of, after 13 years, to be able to say that I am a professional in this particular sector. Being here is also a source of pride for me to have been able to participate to this fellowship program in the US is also made me very, very happy, and means a lot to me. Yeah.
So you both talked about working in mixed groups, and you have, like, with the civil society, with the magazine, you have a team that's equally divided. With the cultural work you're doing, Dounia, you're working with both men and women. How are you building trust and community?
It depends on the person. Oh, sorry. Go on.
No, go ahead. No problem. Go ahead, please.
Go ahead,
Nezha.
Nezha.
Yes, it depends on the person also. As a leader, as I said earlier, you say let's go, but people to really to believe you, you have to be really you have to encounter the values that you struggle for. Because if you not really present or what you say, it means like there is a duplicity. And we find this in many sectors in politics also. Dounia knows a lot. I mean, the trust also is to understand that you are just a part of a team, and together we can make a change. And if we want to make a change, we have to believe together and exchange. And also diversity and acceptance are two main elements if you want really to build trust. Because if I just tolerate you, it means implicitly I feel superior, so we will never get into the same results. I accept you because you are who you are, but if we talk about gender justice, we want to have equal chance of education and this and this. And if you can convince, welcome to our team and let's work together.
And maybe I can add that the idea of transparency as well, like to be honest with your with the participant about why we're doing all these projects and all the activity. Sometimes people are wondering who is funding this, for what purpose, why are we here, why do you need us? So I think transparency and honesty about the overall objectives and goals of the organizations is very important. Another thing would be freedom of expression, and create this freedom, like a space of freedom, and make people feel that they are free to stay, free to leave, free to express their opinion or criticize your approach or whatever. So they really feel like they are part of the adventure. And basically we have like a motto that we always say that people are very welcome to contribute and to participate as far as they provide something to the community. I mean, to be constructive and not just criticizing for criticizing. So freedom and responsibility beside transparency seem to be important.
And if I can add just nurturing. Nurturing is very important because it's the aspect of leadership that you when you feel that you are improved within a team, you love yourself and you love others. Because this part of winner, we have it naturally as as a human being inside of us. So nurturing is telling them you are the
Nurturing.
best. You can nurturing. My French accent sometimes.
Yeah.
So this is what I mean. It's the key aspects of leadership, also on trust.
So we have a question from one of our board members, Phyllis Kahn, who is a scientist. And so she wants to know more about how you encourage girls in male-dominated fields like math and science. And what's interesting about the two of you is you both came out of science, biology and medicine, and moved into communications and culture. So how did you, how were you first encouraged to go into a scientific field? How did you decide originally? I mean, I understand you made the switch, but how did you originally decide to go into medicine and into biology? And is that something that's encouraged, that is available and encouraged for girls in Morocco?
I can say, for example, as far as my experience is concerned, we have the best mathematics girls and boys in our little village. Is really very known. So it was natural that a lot of students go and study scientific subjects. But for me, I love biology, and even biology teach me communication, because between cells, if they don't communicate, it's a catastrophe for the body and for the whole biosphere. So from biology also you can learn other things. But for Women for Diversity and Peace, we are really aware today that to encourage girls to go to scientific subjects, or to, for example, we find in digital world a lot of men. That's why this is the next step that we are working on, la fracture numérique, as we say in French, and it's based on the 2 years of work. Me and the co-founder, we worked with international cooperation. There was a very famous project called E-Skills Girl, and we work with the little villages, so we get enough experience. Then we can just try to adapt it with our project, which is not really easy. It's a big question. It concerns the system, the symbolic representations, the system of education. It's a lot, but we are just a little part. But we want to do that through a constructive project for the coming years. It's about reducing the gap in digital world by raising awareness about it, because we don't talk about it today.
Thank you. Great. And Dounia, you were encouraged to go into medicine?
At the beginning, it was like a kind of a personal choice, and like a childhood a dream to be a doctor. I think that the problem is not to choose scientific fields, because as Nezha has said, I mean, so far when you look at the results of the baccalaureate, like the high school diploma, you will find more female, more women, more girls succeeding than boys. I don't have the exact numbers, but I think that it's the case. But then they also go to engineering school and to scientific faculties and universities, such as medicine or other scientific sector. The problem is after, you know, when you come to the practice, and because we still have maybe a dedicated role for women in family and society and blah blah, they have less opportunity to make a bigger career and a richer career in these fields. So they have to take care of their family, to get married, to have kids, and to take care of them themselves almost with no help. So then the evolution is different between men and women when it comes to career. But when it comes to study, basically, I think that maybe they have the same opportunities, but the things that they have social different roles, this is what makes the difference in successful career. In my organization, we don't have specific projects or programs to encourage people for scientific fields, women mostly, but we do projects to encourage people to freely choose what they want to do. So this is the one of the main motto of our project, is to be free to do whatever you want to do because you want to do it, and not because it's like an imposed role by the society or whatever. So basically, if people can choose, and women can choose, and girls can choose freely, and I think that the word free is very important here, I think that everything is possible.
Thank you so much. Our program's coming to an end. So I wanted to really thank Nezha and Dounia for joining us today.
Thank you.
And thank you to our program manager, Lily, for managing all the technical details.
Thank you, Lily.
So everyone,
Thank you.
please join us for our next webinar, which is August 29th, which will honor one of our co-founders, Professor Rula Kwawas of blessed memory. She's from Jordan, and we will celebrate the 10-year anniversary of Forward Global Women. I'd like to end with a quote from Professor Rula. It was a dedication in one of her books. For all young women who dare to step out of history that is holding them back and into the new story that they are willing to create. Thank you again, Dounia and Nezha, for sharing your new stories.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
see you all next time. Thank you.
Happy birthday.
Thank you to our attendees for joining us as well.